Oh, yeah.
Hey, party people. I have on Ashley this week. And Ashley, I guess you found me or we found each other. God brought us together 100%. It's one of those things where I'm just like, how did this happen? But it's amazing. Started talking to each other, audio messages, and we were just going back and forth. And I was like, this girl, it's just, you meet people in your life where you just start talking and you're like, have I known you my entire life? It's just comfortable. It makes sense. So we were getting into the whole feminist thing and, I guess getting out of it. And I'm not hesitating saying that. I am hesitating saying that because I still care about women and girls. I don't want people to misunderstand that, but I'm also not under the illusion that men are bad and that staying at home and being a work from home mom or just being a mom is a bad thing. So, I mean, you can definitely chime in there.
I completely agree. I was actually thinking about it this morning, when I want to say probably, it started with Tumblr. There's where it all started. It was Tumblr in high school. Oh my gosh. And by 18, 19, I was definitely really into liberal feminism. And I feel like looking back now, my brain was basically rotted out. And then as I got older and liberal feminism failed me with just added trauma and crap, because it just preaches go be promiscuous, go do all these crazy things, do drugs, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's all about having fun and feeling good. And then I leaned more radical feminist, and then that just became literally men should die. And I was like, okay, well maybe this is really insane. And I just kind of started paying attention to the other side of things, and I was like, this is actually way more logical. And I guess I kind of started looking to what do people who I want my life to look like what are they doing? And that kind of made a huge flip. And then I lost a lot of friends because everyone thinks I'm kind of crazy now. But I think
because you got out of the feminism movement.
Yeah, because I just am I still obviously I love women. I care about women. Yeah. I think women are very important. Women and girls, especially with everything going on today with the trans ideology. I think it's so important that we protect women and girls. But I also think that feminism has really destroyed our culture and society. People are miserable. Men and women don't know how to have relationships. I think the sexual revolution was horrible for us. Now women are I don't know how to tell a guy no. And I'm like, my grandma had no issue smacking a guy's hand and being like, don't touch me. And now women are we can't do that. And I think birth control can, I guess, be useful. I'm not really a fan of it. I think that the hormones and stuff are just all
I'm bad. A hardcore not fan of it. It literally is dysregulating. It's disrupting a woman's natural body doing what it does. You're disrupting that. And it's no wonder women get suicidal. No, there's all these crazy side effects that are unwanted. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just yeah, the classic phrase, and I'm sure women love hearing this, and men, if you don't want to have a baby, you don't have sex. I just don't believe in the birth control thing. No, I believe in the one of not having sex, but not the chemical. It's crap. Stopping your period? Or what?
My neighbor mentioned the other, I guess, right before I moved, she goes, we're the first generation of women who was on birth control since they were children. Because they're giving it to 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. The first time it was given to me, I was 17. And it was horrible. It was horrible. I will never take birth control again. But I think opening the gates of birth control, men were okay, well, we can get what we want from women without consequence. It just benefited them greatly.
Seriously.
And, women just have, again, it's just destroying our bodies, wreaking havoc on our hormones. And there's,
we're on the receiving end of that. Men are just oh, it's having fun time. And also you should get an abortion because it's empowering. It's an act of love. Some chick in Congress, I don't know what this video was speaking to some congressperson being an abortion is an act of love. It's just so sick. I'm how disgusting. You were destroying a human life. That's a child. And you're praising that? Sick.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I almost can't understand how I used to think. Like, I genuinely don't understand how I used to think. And looking back, I just feel like I was regurgitating crap that I was told was, you know, the right thing, the moral thing. It made you a good person. It made you empathetic. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, that was just evil. Like, that was all evil. And I was miserable. All my friends were miserable. Like, we were all miserable. And I can't understand why I thought any of that was acceptable, but I do think the sexual revolution with birth control and abortion, it definitely degraded society, degraded relationships between men and women, because before that, you know, it was the assumption that you would get married and then have sex and then have children.
Right.
And now we have, you know, so many kids with no dad, which is not statistically horrible for children. The statistics show, you know, if there's no dad in the home, you're more likely to not be in school, be a teen parent, be a single parent yourself someday, go to prison.
All the crime. Oh yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, how can we be saying that? Obviously, like, how in feminism they say, oh, well, women just are better than men, and I'm like, are we? Because all these single mothers are raising kids and they turn out to be criminals. So, like, obviously, we need feminine energy, masculine energy to have a healthy kid.
Yep.
And
100%.
you know, obviously, in cases of abuse, I think that's an issue, but I don't think that we should just be encouraging, like, oh, we don't need fathers in the home. Fathers are useless. And I saw that a lot, especially more in radical feminism, where it was just like, screw men. You don't need them. We don't need men at all.
I feel like you probably saw that more on Tumblr. I definitely saw a side of that because I'm not on Tumblr. I was on that years ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was more like, I just saw this like GIF, like trendy video montage of tweets of young radical feminists being like, men shouldn't have an opinion, no uterus, no opinion. I don't know if that's one of the things I said, but just like really sick stuff. Men should die, like all men. I'm like, okay, clearly you were damaged by a man, either your father or a boyfriend, whatever. And I'm not saying this lightly to be like, you're a loser, that happened to you. I'm like, this is very common. I'm saying this empathetically. It's just very clear to me that a lot of feminists that are like, fuck men, and just have male trauma, and that's real, and that's very common. I don't think choosing an outlet that channels your anger to be more angry is going to help you out. It's going to make it worse.
I completely agree with everything you just said. It's you know, I can at least say for myself, that's where it stemmed from. I lost my father when I was 15, and, you know, my mom and I didn't get along growing up. So I turned to male attention. I was a teenager, and and it just, the common trauma, I mean, the trauma just added up. I couldn't stand men. I really couldn't stand them. And now looking back, I'm like, it really stemmed from a lot of trauma. And I look at women, and back even when I was in feminism, and we would have never wanted to be with a man who was like, I hate women. So why would a guy want to be with us if we're walking around going, I hate men, I hate them?
Yeah, I think how I was around my husband. I think it was so awkward. Like, it really ignited some like bitterness within me and like, obviously there's some jokes and stuff in TV shows, whatever, that I watch before I went into feminism, where I'm like, that's pretty fucked up. But then when I was in the feminism thing, like first starting out, like really jumped head first, you know, I'm watching stuff, and I became kind of unbearable. I'm not like, I don't know, it was just unbearable to watch some stuff. I just became hypersensitive to anybody poking fun at a woman or making some sort of sexist comment. And I'm like, obviously, I mean, sexist comments and men being men like that are shitty, is gonna exist, but should it have to destroy me and me be like, oh, I'm so triggered? I don't know. I'm like, I think I was pretty unbearable with my husband. How awkward. Who wants to have sex with someone who's angry at you? Like, your sex. Like, how unattractive.
I agree. I look back and I'm like, I don't know how my husband dealt with that, but like, you know, I'm glad we are where we're at now. You know, we both grew up a lot. I would say definitely when we first started dating, we weren't shining stars then. We were kind of a mess. And yeah, I'm glad that we stuck through that, although it's very popular to just say screw it, like why even bother trying, on to the next. And that's
sure.
in my opinion, obviously, you know, not every person you date's going to be the one, but if you give up on everyone, pretty soon you're going to be 40 and alone. And
especially if you believe that you're supposed to be. There's nothing wrong with having a career as a woman, all right? Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. But if you believe that thing, like you have to have that career, and having a family and kids brings you down and makes you not want to do what you want to do, and how obvious is that it's, I just see some parallels with like BLM and all these things that are like destroy the nuclear family, where I'm like, well, that's definitely destroying the family if a woman is in her later years of life and she's not married and she doesn't have kids, and then she's like, I'm miserable. Or maybe can't even admit that to herself, and she's just perpetually bitter and she doesn't even realize that that's why. I'm not saying that you have to have babies either, but you're missing an opportunity to embrace like a natural part of you. Like women have babies. You get what I'm saying? I'm so bad with words.
There was, what was it, in Allie Beth Stuckey's book, she talks about how women, all of us have this maternal instinct, and the ones who don't have kids just end up getting animals, and they put all their energy into that, and that's where their maternal instinct goes. And
I mean, I have 3 cats. I'm like, I could definitely see that. Which is great. There's nothing wrong with that either. That's beautiful. Like, if you don't have kids, it's totally on you. I'm not making, people make their own choices, but it's nice that you can use, animals as that outlet for sure.
Yes. I mean, I go outside and kiss my chickens. I can't control myself. I'm just like,
aw, I would too.
They're good pets. And they're good to eat. So I'm like, I love you, and now I'm going to eat you. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your body.
One of my first pregnancy cravings was I would see my ducks in the backyard, and I would just be like, I want to eat you with curry and rice. And I was like,
I bet.
no, I had to stop looking out the window.
What? It's food. Go figure.
Oh gosh, but what was it? I had another thing that I thought of, and then it just popped out of my head.
Having kids, nuclear family.
Kids, what was it?
It's okay. How you lost friends because you got pregnant?
Oh yeah, getting pregnant definitely.
Can you explain that? I told my husband that, and he was like, I don't understand. What?
I think it's because for so long I was like, I'm not having kids. Like, it's just not happening. The world is too messed up. Like, I don't think I'd be good at being a parent. Like, just because I had all this trauma, and I was definitely, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I first met my husband, I was on a bunch of psychiatric medications, which made me like actually crazy. Like, I can firmly say that those pills are what made me crazy. It wasn't that I was crazy. It's that the drugs they had me on made me a lunatic. And then getting off of those drugs made me seriously insane. But my husband was like, you don't need all of this. Like, you just need to go outside. Like, you just need to be outside. And he wasn't wrong. He's definitely saved my life in a way from all of that. And then in the past year or so, I've just been progressively more and more sane and healthy, to where, again, you start hitting your 30s. I'm almost 30, and I'm thinking, I don't want to just have cats the rest of my life. I love my cats, but I'm bored, and I'm not a career woman. I'm never wanted to be a career woman. It's just not my thing.
You want to sit in a cubicle from like 9 to 5 and not talk to anyone and just do your stuff?
Yeah, it's miserable. Anytime that I worked, I was so incredibly stressed, and it definitely put strain on my relationships, because I was stressed, and I was grumpy all the time because I was exhausted, and the house was a mess. Everything was a disaster. Not that my house is spick and span clean all the time, but I mean, it was really like, we didn't have time to do laundry. We didn't have time.
Exactly. Both people are working. Yep.
And it just becomes a crap show. I mean, it was horrible. And then I guess that's another point of feminism. I do think, and that's, another hot topic is, I think that the push for women being out of the home really is to get a second taxes on that one household.
Good point. Yeah.
Great for the government, and then the government has your kids. I mean, it's crazy. People are like, "Oh, you thinking of working?" And I'm like, "So I can pay all of my income to childcare?" It's like $500 something a week. That's like
Also, good point about this. This also helps. This is such a abrupt jump, but I just thought of that. Like, if you're both parents are working that 9 to 5 job or whatever, you have to pay for childcare or or a nanny. I'm like, isn't that like I talked to my mom about this recently. I'm like, the amount of kids that get sexually abused in childcare and with nannies is insane. I'm like, this helps all pedophiles. Like, I'm like, I would never want to be away from my kids and have someone else look after my effing child. Like, I mean, dude, it's like, no, hello. It's setting it up for disaster. And no matter how good you may know a person, like sex trafficking is so real, and just manipulating children. It's just, I mean, especially now, my God.
That's one of the things I wrote in my notes. Public schools, every public school I've ever been to had a pedophile that got arrested at one point.
And yeah, our principal in our high school was like coming on to young girls and giving them like necklaces. And I mean, that's the part that we heard. Oh,
yeah. And there are multiple stories, you know, I've heard of other teachers who didn't get arrested, who are still teaching.
Oh yeah, they moved to a different school. That's so common, men protecting men in that way, where they just move into a different company or state or whatever. Hello, the Vatican and Catholicism anyway.
Yeah, oh gosh. Oh yeah, it's horrible. I mean,
by the way, there's a movie called Spotlight. You should definitely watch it. I finished it and I was like, tell me something I don't know, but it's about Catholicism and pedophilia and shit. It's interesting that Hollywood does these movies, but anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I definitely especially like now that I'm pregnant, where I'm like, no, I don't want to work outside the home because I'm not childcare costs a lot. Like I was reading online, people pay like $500 plus a week on childcare. That's about how much I could potentially, I don't even think I could make that much. I mean, if I was doing $10 an hour working full time, I wouldn't come home with enough to cover the cost of childcare. So I would be going to work and losing money because I'd have to pay childcare. I'd have to pay for gas. I'd have to pay for the clothes that I need for my job. I'd have to pay for all of these things. And for what? So somebody else can raise
your child? Exactly.
You know, so many parents that are older, you know, I've talked to a lot of my friends' parents or, you know, family friends that I've just known for years. And they're all like, I just don't understand like how my values didn't stick to my kid. And I'm like, well, you were at work for 10 hours every day and you spent like 2 hours with them, plopped them in front of the TV and fed them.
Yeah, exactly. You're come home tired. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't have time to, you know, teach those things to your kids. And then when you did teach them, you'd send them away for 10 hours. And like, when I look back on school, I'm not like, oh man, this teacher had this crazy impact on me. I'm like, wow, I listened to all of my idiot friends on what to do with my life. You know, the people who have the most impact on you in high school and middle school are your peers. And that's just how it is. And I'm sorry, but what group of 15-year-olds really realistically has a really good idea?
None. Zero.
Yeah, none of us. You know, and especially teenage girls, because we talk so much. You know, guys, when they're stressed out, they're just like, all right, let's play some video games and, you know, not talk to each other for 5 hours. And girls are like, let's literally dissect everything. Like, oh, he looked to the left while you guys were talking. Let's try and figure out why. So next thing you know, like we all just have these horrible ideas that turn into a crap show. And parents are like, I don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, well, you're not spending any time with your kid. You're sending them away to be indoctrinated. And
they come home from school. Yeah.
They come from Christian parents.
Yeah. And I'm like,
especially Christian parents, you know, if you send your kid to a public school, they're teaching atheism. They're not teaching Christianity.
No, they took God out of the school, man.
Yeah.
Kids sit for the Pledge of Allegiance because I can't believe they even still have that. Yeah. Which there's this thing. Oh, I wish I had the website in front of me. What time are we at? Because I want to write it down if I can remember. Where's it? That you can a petition or something where you print out a sign that says, "In God we trust." And there's something within the public school system that if you come to them saying, "Hey, I have this sign that says, 'In God we trust," you have to put this in they have to put that in their classroom somewhere where it's visibly like displayed. It's something that the schools have to obey. And I was like, what? Yeah, someone locally is doing that in Austin, Texas. And I was like, that's freaking amazing. I'll have to put that in there.
Really neat. When I was in high school, our teachers didn't make us stand anymore for like the pledge or say it. We didn't have to stand or say it. We were just told that we had to be quiet. We just weren't allowed to talk during the pledge. And that was
serious?
Yep. That was
what's the point of the pledge if you're not like, okay, that's crazy.
I have no idea. And I'm just assuming that it's gotten worse from there.
Oh yeah, it has. I don't know if you've seen photos of the
graduated 10 years ago or almost 11 years ago. So
they've taken the flag down, they put up the trans, the BLM, the even like Mao or some communism thing, which is insane. That was in California, of course it was.
Oh yeah, I've seen the TikToks of like the trans or non-binary teachers who are like, how do I explain this to my preschoolers? And I'm like, well, they're 4, so I don't know.
Why are you talking about sexuality? Why are you making it about you? Like, why are you not doing your job? Obvious predator groomer. Yeah, it's so sad. These people are so hijacked by the enemy, Satan, that like some of them may not even realize the garbage the damage they're doing. Like they're so disillusioned by doing that act. I think they're getting loving
people. I mean,
I don't know. I think China owns America at this point. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it's crazy. I was telling my husband, China is like, we need masculine men, like none of these femi boys on the TV.
I heard about that. They're like feminizing men in America, but then in China, they're like promoting all this stuff on their end of the propaganda, which is like masculine, making men masculine. And I was like, what? This is so obvious. They're trying to like lower America, raise China. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, masculine men.
TikTok is garbage.
Like, and that's somehow controversial. I do think men build society. Like, I'm sorry, who built my house? It was a bunch of men. Yes, there might have been a woman or two, but it's primarily men.
Yeah, and women can, but it's like, exactly. I'm like, men have that strength because biology exists.
I talk to my friends. I'm like, how many of you want to go be a plumber and work with crap? My husband's a plumber. None of my friends are like, yeah, you know what? I want to go be a plumber. They're not. It's gross. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, who runs that show? Dirty Jobs, whatever. Mike Rowe, a male. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, Rowe. Yeah.
When my brother was a little kid, they had like I think he was like 7 or 8. They had him like fill out this big sheet. It was like, who's your hero? And that was his hero.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I think Mike is a pretty legit SDNA dude.
Yeah. I agree. I've watched some of his stuff. One of his videos was just him next to a dumpster on fire in California.
And I was like, this is 2021.
Yeah. I'm like, oh gosh, seems accurate of California.
Oh yeah.
That's a state you will never see me visit.
Oh man, it's so bad.